My wife, Nicole, 27, female, and I, 29, male, had been married for a year, but recently I filed for divorce after I found out that she had been cheating on me with one of her coworkers. Interestingly, it was actually my in-laws who exposed the affair to me and suggested that I file for a divorce as soon as I could. Nicole is the single child of her millionaire parents who own a massive pharmaceutical company. She and I met on a dating app around 3 years ago and we hit it off on our very first date, so we have been together since then. After living together for 1 year, I decided to pop the question and we got married soon after. Her parents, I'll refer to them as Frank and Leah, were really cool people and always seemed to like me. In fact, Nicole sometimes used to joke that I was the son that they never had, and it really felt that way because right from the first time that I had met them, they treated me like one of their own. They were very warm and kind people and did not have any airs about them. Even though they were really wealthy, they were always very grounded and humble, and that's one of the things that I like the most about these people. I personally don't have a very good relationship with my parents. I grew up in a very emotionally disturbed household. My parents didn't love each other, but didn't get divorced either because they thought that they had to stay together for my sake. So they would end up fighting almost every day, and neither were they happy together, nor was I. Neither of my parents were particularly affectionate, and even though I am still in touch with both of them now, and they are still married, things are still the same way. Family dinners are almost always an obligation rather than something that any of us actively want to be a part of. But with Nicole's family, it was all very different. It felt like my own people, and I got very comfortable with them very quickly. So I had always known that they liked me, but I never imagined that if it really came down to it, they would pick me over their own daughter. And that's where my dilemma is right now, because they want to make me the heir of their inheritance since Nicole had been cheating on me, and they want to make up for it. I don't know whether to accept it or not because Nicole is pretty furious about it. And at the end of the day, it is rightfully something that belongs to her, and I'm only getting it because she cheated on me and her parents ratted her out. I'm emotionally devastated, but I still don't understand if it would be the right thing to do. And I certainly do want to take that money since it is $2 million. I had a lawyer evaluate everything and got to know that it's a pretty insane amount of money that I will be taking away from Nicole if I accept my in-laws' offer. So I'm really confused about what to do right now. Nicole and I have always had a very smooth and loving relationship. We would have small fights like any other couple, but we would always manage to be able to work them out. So when my in-laws invited me over to their house on my own and told me that they wanted to discuss something very important with me, I had no idea that they were going to tell me that Nicole had apparently been cheating on me with a coworker of hers. Nicole worked for her dad's company and was in charge of recruitment. It was a family business, so it was easier for them to keep an eye on her. And they had noticed that she was spending an extraordinary amount of time with one of their newest recruits. What was really disgusting was the fact that the guy that had been having an affair was much younger than her. He had just graduated from college and was barely 21. It was legal, but it was just so strange that she, in spite of being happily married, felt the need to look for love outside of her marriage. They had noticed the increasing closeness between the two of them and had even asked Nicole about it just to keep them honest, but she reassured them that the two of them were just close friends and were getting along well. That was it. There was no fraternization happening. It was concerning for them as well because not only was it bad for our marriage, it could possibly open them up to potential lawsuits as well. Because Nicole was in a senior position compared to the guy that she was having that affair with, and if they happened to break up, he could very well use it against the company and sue them if he wanted to. So my in-laws had asked her several times if there was anything that they should know about their relationship. But she told them that it was strictly professional and there was really nothing more to it. Unfortunately, as much as her parents wanted to believe her, it was impossible because in spite of their repeated warnings about her friendship with that guy, she refused to back down and would even meet him outside of work. They didn't tell me about it at first because they didn't think it was their place to say anything. It was quite possible that this was a very innocent friendship, but soon enough, things got to a point where her parents felt that they had to intervene. So they did something and hired a private detective to go after her and keep an eye on her. They were pretty rich, so money was not a problem, and they managed to get a professional to do the job for them. On sending a detective after Nicole, they were able to find out that she had been visiting the other guy quite often after work hours. She would tell me that she was out with friends or she was just at work, and I would trust her. But her parents told me that that was not the case. Every day she would leave after her workday was over and head over to her partner's house. And then she would spend the next couple of hours there until she was ready to come back home. None of us was stupid. We knew that if she was lying to me, then there was definitely nothing innocent happening in his house. I was heartbroken when I found out because I really loved Nicole, and I still do, something that's deep down. But getting to know that she had been cheating on me and had been lying to me for the past few months really broke my heart. This happened about a week and a half ago, and I still remember that meeting with my in-laws and how devastated I was following it. Even the two of them were very upset while they were letting me know about all of this, but they said that they knew Nicole was never going to come and tell me the truth. So they thought that it would be better for them to tell me instead. At the time, they hadn't let Nicole know that they knew the truth, and I had been the first person that they told. I broke down in front of them when they told me about it, and I was very lucky that they comforted me like they were my own parents. They told me that this was not my fault, that they had seen how I treated Nicole like a queen, and this was all her fault. She just couldn't value the love that she had been given by her parents and me, and threw it all away for a guy that she had barely even known for a year. I remember staying at their house that day because I just couldn't bring myself to go home and face Nicole, and they were kind enough to let me spend the night at their place. I was very shaken up, and I cried the entire night because I just didn't know what to do next. Logically, I knew that the next step would be to file for a divorce. But my heart wasn't ready to give up on her yet. So the next morning, I decided to go back home before Nicole left for work. I hadn't answered any of her calls or texts the previous night, so it was a bit of a surprise for her when I showed up in the morning right before she was about to leave. I was clearly in a very bad state, and she seemed concerned, but I sat her down and I asked her about the affair because that was the most important thing on my mind at the time. She hesitated for a bit and tried to deny it. But then I brought out the pictures that her parents had shown me of her car parked outside of her coworker's house on the days that she had told me she was working late. She tried to tell me that they were just friends and they were hanging out, but then there was no reason for her to lie about it. So she finally had to come out and tell me the truth, that she had been cheating on me with him. The second that she told me that it was true, she had been having an affair, I broke down once again, and this time it was much worse than before. Because when it was just her parents saying it, I still had some hope, and I was hoping that it would not be true, and maybe it was just a misunderstanding of some sort. But after I had heard it from Nicole's mouth, there was no denying it anymore, and I had to accept the fact that she had actually been cheating on me. I was hysterical, and I don't even remember what I said to her, but I only remember a lot of screaming and shouting. She had also started to cry, and she was trying to tell me that she was being stupid and had lost sight of what was important because she was feeling a little bored in her marriage. But she had never expected me to find out because it was just a fling and it didn't mean anything to her. And that made things even worse. Because if it didn't mean anything to her, then there was no reason for her to be doing it anyway. The fact that she had ruined our marriage because she was feeling a little bored just got to me. I remember yelling at her about how I had trusted her and always been there for her, but she had thrown all of it away for some guy that she barely even knew. And I think I continued to shout at her until I had made her dissolve into a puddle of tears. At one point, things got so bad that she was on the floor and was crying with her head in her hands, and I was just screaming at her while standing above her. It was a huge mess, and even thinking about that day made me feel really uncomfortable about the way both of us had been behaving, because it was not normal. Nothing about it was normal. But once that ordeal was over, I told her that I was done with her, and I wanted her out of the house. She tried to tell me that she was going to break things off with the other guy that day itself, and that she just wanted me to give our marriage another chance. But I told her that as long as she was here, I would not be able to think about anything other than her affair, and I needed some time to think. So until then, I wanted her out of the house. There were a lot of arguments because she insisted that we could stay together and work things out. It would be the right thing to do, but at that time, I was still struggling to even come to terms with the fact that she had been cheating on me. So working things out and leaving her was all secondary to me. To make up my mind first, I had to process everything that happened, and for that, I needed her to be away from me. I didn't even want to breathe the same air as her because I was disgusted by what she had done, and I hated and resented her so much at the time that I couldn't be around her. But she kept refusing to leave, so I got really frustrated, and I told her that I would leave instead because I couldn't stand to be around her anymore. She was still upset and said that I couldn't leave because she wanted to sort things out and still stay married to me because it had just been a mistake and I couldn't leave her over something like this. But I didn't even dignify that with a response and just left. I didn't bother to pack anything, and I just started driving aimlessly because I didn't even know where I was going to go. It was not until I was really low on gas that I realized that I actually had to spend the night somewhere. So I started driving towards the nearest hotel at that point, and have been here ever since. Things have not been great since then, between Nicole and me. Even though I have tried a lot to forget about what she did and try to forgive it, I just can't. So last week, I finally filed for divorce after mulling it over for 3 days. I hadn't spoken to Nicole after I left the house that day, even though she had been trying to reach out to me. The truth is, I don't even have anything left to say to her because what she did was not something I can ever forgive or forget. However, my in-laws have kept in touch with me and have been texting me every single day to make sure that I'm doing fine. I have been in touch with them as well because when I told my parents and tried to look to them for help, they were not very helpful. They just told me that they were sorry about everything and that I should always do what I feel is right, which is just such a generic and asinine advice. So it was not going to be helpful talking to them, and I knew that. They did not even try to comfort me or anything. So I started talking to my in-laws. I haven't told any of my friends yet, but I don't need some emotional support, which is why I have been talking to them. Most people might find it weird, but I am really close to them, and I don't think this is wrong. After I filed for divorce, and once Nicole had been served, she started texting me even more frequently, but I hadn't opened any of her chats or bothered to read them. I had also muted all her notifications, so it didn't really bother me. But that didn't mean that I had forgotten about what happened. I still hadn't moved on, and everything just hurt. To make matters worse, I was also having a tough time at work because I had to take an unexplained leave of absence. Since I couldn't exactly go to work every day now that I was living in a hotel in the middle of nowhere, and the commute would be simply too tedious. I was almost out of paid leave, and my employer contacted me a few days ago to inform me that if I didn't show up to work in the next few days, then I would be facing termination. This stressed me out even more because I had a lot of major expenses ahead of me since divorce was an expensive process. And I also had to start looking for a new everything from houses to jobs. And I had been sharing all of this with my in-laws just conversationally. I didn't actually expect them to help out or anything. But when I told them about all of this, they told me that since it was Nicole who had backed me into a corner, they were going to fix this for me. I have no idea what they were going to do, but a couple of hours later, they told me that I needed to come to their house ASAP because Nicole was there and they wanted us to talk it out. I didn't have to talk about the divorce, but we could at least discuss who got to live in the house because Nicole could still live with them, but I needed my own place so I could still go to work. I was hesitant to do it at first because I really didn't want to talk to Nicole, but my in-laws convinced me to come over and give it a chance because they didn't want me to lose my job because of this. So eventually I agreed and I went over to their place. I was naturally very nervous because I was seeing Nicole after quite some time, but I also didn't want to let her know that I was nervous, so I didn't say anything for the first few minutes that I was in the room. Both of us avoided even looking at each other, and it wasn't until the in-laws started talking that we had anything to say. My in-laws suggested that I take over the house because Nicole could live with him. And since they all worked in the same place, it wouldn't be a problem. But it could become an issue for me if I didn't get the house because otherwise I would stand to lose my job. And that's when something really weird happened. Nicole started saying that she didn't even know why she would have to be the one to make such sacrifices when it was my fault that we were getting divorced. And she told her parents that as her parents, they should be on her side instead of siding with a cheater. She said that she knew and understood that they liked me, but this was taking things too far. None of us had any idea what she was talking about and just kept staring at her, waiting for her to explain what the heck she was talking about. Her tone was very indignant and full of conviction, so I actually began to think that she might have something to say this time, and it might make sense. But unfortunately, she started speaking absolute crap, and I quickly caught on, realizing that she was just trying to make me look bad in front of her parents so that they wouldn't side with me anymore, and was literally lying about me right in front of me. So Nicole actually didn't know that it was her parents who had told me about the affair, so she had probably assumed that I had sent a detective after her to get those photos myself. She had no idea about her parents being involved, so she started making up some false story about me having an affair with a common friend. She claimed that apparently she had seen how the two of us would always act very cozy whenever all of us were hanging out, and even she had edited some images and brought out photos that made it look like I was hanging out with that friend of mine and doing romantic things with her, like having dinner and stuff. She claimed that she had only had her own affair because she had found out about us and she felt hurt. And apparently her coworker had been hitting on her for a long time. So she just agreed to go out with him as a way to get revenge on me and take things off her mind. But now that it was all out in the open, she told her parents that she expected them to throw me out of the house and cut me off forever. She told them that she didn't appreciate their relationship with me and wanted an end to it because she was sure that I was the one who had asked them to get involved even now, or even told them about the divorce in the first place, and manipulated them to believe me instead of her, and portray myself as the victim, and that I had asked them to organize this meeting between us. I knew that she was screwed at that point because she had just dug herself a hole that she couldn't get out of because she had made up a fake story to expose me and get her parents back on her side, which was pretty much the worst move she could make, given the circumstances. And surely enough, her mother started yelling at her almost immediately and said that she couldn't believe that she had thought that we would always be stupid enough to believe her lies and her badly edited pictures. Nicole was quite taken aback by that reaction. It was clearly not what she was expecting. Her parents told her that they had expected her to be honest after she had been caught at the very least, but clearly they had failed somewhere while raising her because she had turned into a horrible lying cheater. Then the big reveal happened and my in-laws finally told her that it was them who had told me about the affair and handed me the photos. So there was no point in lying to them and trying to save face because everybody knew the truth. And boy, was Nicole's face worth seeing at that point. Then they got into a huge fight, which was inevitable because Nicole felt betrayed and said that she hated the fact that they always treated me like their own son, but were willing to sell out their own daughter for my sake. And her parents were naturally very upset that she had turned out the way she did. They also called her stupid for not being able to realize that they were the ones who had told me about the affair, since they had also confronted her about it before and asked her several times if she had anything going on with that coworker. And she told them that it had occurred to her that they might have told me, but it seemed absurd, since at the end of the day they were her parents and she expected a certain degree of loyalty from them no matter what she was doing. So they kept arguing for a while and she stormed out after some time, saying that she didn't want to speak to any of us because she was just done with everything. She was pretty upset and I kind of felt bad for her because I could understand that not having your own parents on your side, that's going to sting. But after things had calmed down a little, my in-laws told me that they had made up their minds and they said that they were going to change the bill and make me the sole heir to their inheritance because clearly Nicole did not deserve it and they wanted me to have it because they felt like it was more appropriate. It was a huge move and I felt uncomfortable taking money from them. Such a huge amount as well because I would essentially be taking it away from Nicole. So I told them that I needed some time to think about it because this was a big deal and I couldn't just say yes and be done with it. There were going to be repercussions of this and I wanted to think about it all before I came to a decision about what to do. So I told them that I wanted to take my time and think about it before I said anything, and they agreed. They told me that I had all the time in the world to think about it, but it's been days and I still don't understand if it would be the moral and ethical thing to do. I know that Nicole ruined our marriage by cheating on me, but the amount that I'm going to inherit and take away from her is a lot, and I don't understand if it's fair or not. I have been thinking about it and I am at a loss right now, and that's why I'm here. So WIBTA if I agreed to take away my cheating soon-to-be ex-wife's inheritance worth $2 million? Update 1. Thank you guys so much for all the valuable comments and for being so supportive of me. I'm doing fine emotionally, by God's grace, and I have been talking to my friends about it as well. They think that I should take the money because what Nicole did to me was messed up. And if her parents want to fix the situation by making me the heir to their inheritance, then I should just let them, because I deserve it. They also reminded me that not only did Nicole cheat on me, but she also tried to make it seem like I had been the one who had been cheating first with all those pictures and stuff, and her parents might have even believed her if they didn't know the truth. So when it was clear that she would never stop at any length to absolve herself of any blame, then I don't need to go easy on her either, and I think that's a fair assessment of her character. And I have made up my mind. I don't think I need to reject the inheritance because she did not care about my feelings when she was out there cheating on me and throwing away our marriage for a guy that she had barely known for a few months. So there was literally no reason for me to overthink what I was doing. Besides, if she wants to be mad at anybody, then it should be her parents that she's mad at, because I don't owe her anything. Not anymore, at least. Update 2. So I finally got back in touch with my in-laws today, and I told them that I was ready to accept their terms, and they seemed really happy. They told me that they were glad that they had this opportunity to make things right with me, because what Nicole had done was seriously messed up. They told me that after that fight at their house the other day, she had stopped speaking to them and had blocked them everywhere. She had also put in her 2 weeks' notice and had stopped coming to work right from that day itself, and so had her partner. I was shocked that she was ready to give up her job as well, because, as far as I knew, my father-in-law was actually grooming her to take over once he retired, so now he would have to look for somebody else to take over. It was crazy, because I knew how much she loved her job, and yet she was willing to give up on all of it just because she thought that she, for whatever reason, did not deserve to get called out for her actions. I could hear the disappointment in my father-in-law's voice when he was telling me about it, because no doubt Nicole had screwed up everything for herself. But she was still their daughter and their only child. It was fascinating to me that for my in-laws it was more important for them to do the right thing and have a spine rather than pander to their child's wishes. And I have got to say, very few parents in the world will be able to do that and sacrifice their relationship with their only child. I tried to comfort them, but saying things just didn't feel enough, so I decided to pay them a visit tomorrow and spend some time with them, because I know that they must be feeling lonely and hurt because of everything that's happening. Update 3. Hey, so it's been a few weeks since I left my house, and I have been living in a hotel since then. Unfortunately, I got fired from my job, but the good news is that my father-in-law spoke to a friend of his and got me a much better job in his friend's company. So I guess all is well that ends well. The divorce proceedings have started and things are quite tense. Whenever Nicole and I meet with the mediator, it's very difficult for me to ignore her, but I have to. I know for a fact that she has already started properly dating the other guy and has even moved in with him, from what I've heard. I can't say that I'm surprised, but I am a little disappointed, because I thought that it would take a little more time for her to move on from me completely. After all, we have been together for a really long time. But clearly that means nothing to her. I'm going to try and make sure that it means nothing to me either now. Things with my in-laws are fine, though. We don't speak to Nicole anymore, and neither does she. We tried to avoid bringing her up at all, because it's a sensitive topic for us, all of us. It's sad, but at least we are family now. They have not changed their will yet, but they are going to do so after the divorce is finalized, and going to make sure that Nicole does not find out about it until after they're gone. We try to meet each other often, because we know that we are all going through the same thing, and we can only be there for each other and expect it to get better with time. And hopefully it will someday. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.